The weekly installment, the best part of it, is back after a long wait. Just think, all that drama over the course of the 49ers offseason, most of it online, as it always is, but a whole lot of drama, a lot of people saying that was the most dramatic 49ers offseason yet. I would say that 2021 maybe held an edge. I mean, the 49ers are good entertainers, let's put it that way. But for everything that happened, we have now reached point B, starting at point A after the NFC Championship game. We have now reached point B with everything at the very key points essentially having worked out the way that we expected it to. And by the key points, I mean Brock Purdy is QB1 and Nick Bosa is signed to a long-term deal. It is official, signed, sealed, and delivered. He's ready to rush against Pittsburgh on Sunday. Some other stuff might have surprised us. Javon Hargrave, for example. 49ers picked up one of the best interior pass rushers in the game, the best available defensive free agent in the game. I think it's safe to say that. And he's going to be rushing alongside Bosa on Sunday against Pittsburgh. Obviously, there was all of the Trey Lance saga, but I don't think that was all that unexpected. Brock Purdy took Trey Lance's spot. That already happened last year. Trey then had a chance to compete. The 49ers tried to build a robust quarterback room. They did. They picked up Sam Darnold. They had Brandon Allen as part of the toe now on the team, and they traded Trey Lance away to the Dallas Cowboys. The writing on the wall there goes back quite a far way away. We were talking about a potential Trey Lance trade in the offseason. I still remember in April when the first rumors came out, I said, well, yeah, obviously the 49ers, if Brock Purdy were healthy, if everything else fell into place, a trade might be an option that they pursue, but at the time in April, they were a team coming off of losing all their quarterbacks in the NFC Championship game. Purdy was still hurt. It obviously wasn't the time. The time came when Purdy surprised some people. That could be another surprise that we count for the 49ers offseason. When Purdy's recovery moved quicker than anyone expected. Took him only about 4 months to be ready to practice again. Once that happened, once Sam Darnold beat out Trey Lance, once Brandon Allen showed that he could probably be a higher floor quarterback than Trey Lance at number 3, it was okay to trade Trey Lance if you're the 49ers. Anyway, that's all water under the bridge now. I think we all understand why the moves happened the way they did from a strategic perspective. The next strategy is to analyze how the 49ers are going to match up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. We finally can move from off-season speculation mode, from team building strategy mode, and we're still waiting for the Nick Bosa contract details. It is signed, sealed, and delivered now, officially official. You don't have to worry about that. The details aren't out yet, so don't worry. I'm still going to be pivoting back into team building mode, and I've discussed the importance of the structure of that Nick Bosa contract for us to understand what exactly the 49ers are doing from a team building perspective, how they're approaching it over the next few years. But we can now break from the waiting. It's been a while. The contract was agreed to, on Wednesday? It's now late Friday. We still don't have the numbers, but we can agree to take a hiatus from the waiting for the numbers and move on to talking about the 49ers and the Steelers. The 49ers are about, 2.5-point favorites. I saw that it was a 2-point line earlier in the week on Tuesday. Then Nick Bosa re-signed with the team, ended his holdout, and I saw the line move to 2.5. Bottom line is the 49ers are favored to win this game, and they should be favored to win this game. Pittsburgh is a good football team. They went 9-8 last year, and they, more importantly, they finished 6-1. Slow start for the Steelers, hot finish for the Steelers. You see that if you have a competent first-year QB, and now he's a second-year QB in Kenny Pickett, but last year Kenny Pickett was a rookie. That's not abnormal to see a rookie struggle out of the gate. And I know that, there was a little bit of a controversy early on with Mitch Trubisky last year and before they moved to Kenny Pickett. But once Kenny Pickett got into that lineup, hit his stride, the Steelers played some good football. And they've got a really, really good defensive line. That's a vintage Steelers thing. Mike Tomlin's been there forever. Hard-nosed football team, bully ball football team. More on that in a little bit. But the Steelers are a team that I think always has a decently high floor because of how well they play defense, and they found a way to play some decent offense down the stretch of last season. Now, it wasn't great offense, and it wasn't explosive at all. There's a lot of improvement that Pittsburgh needs to make to go from a team that finished 9-8 last year to be able to challenge one of the conference and Super Bowl favorites in the 49ers. But the people on Pittsburgh's side think that the Steelers have made a lot of that improvement this offseason. They'll point to the fact that Kenny Pickett led 5 straight touchdown drives in the preseason, that he was pushing the ball downfield more. A receiver like George Pickens was making big plays for the Steelers. They'll say, hey, this team figured it out. This team figured out the run-pass balance. They figured out the short-range accuracy. They're going to be better after the catch, after being the worst team after the catch in the league last year, and they're going to be better in terms of explosive plays after being the second worst team in that regard last year. And those same people say the Pittsburgh defense can take a step forward too, because they've got such a good defensive line. I say that. I think the Pittsburgh defensive line is awesome. This is going to be a big challenge for the 49ers. But I think the spread is about right. 2.5 is not a big spread. That indicates it's probably going to be a close game. But I still do think the 49ers have the edge in the talent department. The 49ers are a marquee team in the NFL. I mean, this is a matchup of two blue bloods, the team of the 70s, the Steelers, against the team of the 80s, right? But as far as marquee talent right now, the 49ers have more of that than the Steelers. And it is a matchup of symmetry. That's what I wrote about in The Athletic today. I'm going to go through 5 keys of the game, but just to finish setting the table here, there we go. The matchup of symmetry. Nick Bosa and Brock Purdy versus TJ Watt and Kenny Pickett. 2 second-year quarterbacks, 2 big-time edge rushers in Bosa and Watt. Edge rushers coming off of big contracts. TJ Watt signed his in 2021. The 2 reigning defensive players of the year. I mentioned earlier, both of those guys have big brothers that either are or were NFL stars. J.J. Watt, Joey Bosa. Quan Alexander plays for the Steelers. There's a parallel. Javon Hargrave entered the league with the Steelers 2016 to 2019. Anyway, we can go on and on and on. But the biggest parallel in this game, and the most overarching one, leads right into key number 1. Win the bully ball bowl. So these are keys from the 49ers perspective. How do you win this game against Pittsburgh? The Steelers play bully ball. This is a hard-nosed AFC North team. That division is known for this. The 49ers also play bully ball, though. Kyle Shanahan's tried to zag while the rest of the league is zigging by building a really physical roster. Team last year, a great example. Every single team that played the 49ers, if they played in the very next week last year, they finished 0 for the season. I think it was 0-12 or 0-13, maybe even 0-14. The Chiefs did win after playing the 49ers, but they had a bye. So the teams that had to play the very next week, I mean, they just had the wind sucked out of them. They were bruised, they were battered, and they lost. Isaiah Oliver, the 49ers' new nickelback, he played for Atlanta. He was part of that Falcons team that beat the 49ers 28-14 in week 6. Atlanta got their asses kicked the very next week. And Isaiah Oliver said, this is a very real thing. The hangover after playing the 49ers is a very real thing. Anyway, I've proven my point. The 49ers play bully ball. Everybody knows the Steelers under Mike Tomlin play bully ball. Who's going to play bully ball better on Sunday? That's going to be key number 1. Talk to Spencer Burford in the 49ers locker room this week. Burford entering his second year, chiseled body now. It really does look like he's grown up from the physique standpoint, figured out where exactly he needs to be to play that right guard position. He's going to be taking on big Cameron Hayward, who lines up both on the left and the right defensive tackle sides for Pittsburgh. Hayward flip sides. Hayward is an all-pro. I mean, Hayward is a stud. The 49ers are going to have to take care of those battles in this game. There's TJ Watt against Colton McKivitz, and that's key number 2 for me. Watt's obviously one of the best edge rushers in football. Nick Bosa's contract finally usurped Watts for the top spot in the edge market, so it's cool they're going to be on the same field on Sunday. But the 49ers have a new starting right tackle in Colton McKivitz. They think they have a pass protection upgrade in McKivitz over Mike McGlinchey, who was a mediocre pass blocker. Well, there's no better way to test this than to put him up against TJ Watt in week 1. One of the negative drawbacks of Nick Bosa's holdout is that Colton McKivitz didn't get to work against Bosa during training camp. But now he's going to get to work against the big guy, TJ Watt. And that's going to be a focal point battle. The 49ers have to hold serve there. That's part of the Bully Ball Bowl. And the Bully Ball Bowl is going to go beyond Watt and McKivitz. I'm talking about Cameron Hayward against Burford, against Jake Brendel, against Aaron Banks there on the inside. The Steelers have a good-looking new defensive tackle named Keanu Benton out of Wisconsin. He's a big-time run stuffer. Did a great job in the preseason. 49ers think they're going to have to establish the run in this game to set up the pass. Whenever you have such a powerful front, and Pittsburgh's got maybe the deepest collection of edge rushers in the game between TJ Watt. But Alex Highsmith on the other side had 14 and a half sacks last year. The Steelers just paid him about $18 million a year. George Kittle noticed Highsmith on tape and was like, oh my God. I mean, I have to watch more tape of this guy. High effort player. Steelers are a high effort team. You don't see a lot of second, number 2 edge rushers get over 14 sacks. You don't see a lot of number 2s get over 10 sacks. So Highsmith had 14 and a half last year. 2 seasons ago, TJ Watt had 22 and a half sacks. Marcus Golden used to be a starting edge rusher for the Arizona Cardinals. He's in the reserve for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's part of that secondary wave that comes in rushing the passer from the outside. And then Nick Herbig can get after them as well from the outside. So the Steelers are, I mean, this is a team that could come in waves from the outside. And when their edge rushers that good, you have to be able to establish the run. The problem is that you have the middle. You've got Cameron Hayward in the middle. You've got Montravius Adams in the middle. You got Keanu Benton, the rookie I'm just talking about, in the middle. I mean, this is an elite defensive line that the Steelers are going to be bringing against the 49ers. Now, on the other side of the ball, the 49ers are going to bring what I think, at least at the top level, is an elite defensive line as well. The former Steeler, Javon Hargrave, top 2 pass rush win rate last year at defensive tackle. He's a 49er now. We know Nick Bosa is the defensive player of the year. We know Eric Armstead is a fantastic football player. Who's going to be the number 4 for the 49ers? Is Farrell going to step up? Maybe. They just cut Austin Bryant today, so it's not going to be him. We'll see if Javon Kinlaw can play as that second-team defensive tackle alongside Kevin Givens to give the 49ers some good reps to keep everybody fresh. It's a good defensive line for the 49ers. There's no question. I'm just not sure if they're as deep as Pittsburgh's. But either way, they're going to be ready to play bully ball. The Steelers are going to be ready to play bully ball. Are those opposing offensive lines going to be able to counteract these defensive lines? And I will say, and I'm going to get to this in key number 4, the Pittsburgh Steelers do have a little bit of a weakness at tackle. And I said, I already mentioned this with key too. 49ers might have a weakness at tackle with Colton McKivitz. He's going to face Watt. Watt likes to line up against right tackle. We don't know. Colton McKivitz is just an unknown. That's why this is one of the keys. We'll see what ends up happening in this football game. But the other side, Trent Williams against Highsmith. Inside, obviously, talking about Cam Hayward, who's still a top 5 disruptor, even at age 34 at defensive tackle. But on the other side of the football, when we talk about the Bully Ball Bowl, Pittsburgh, they got good guards up front. And this goes back to when they had David DeCastro, not just because he's a Stanford guy, David DeCastro, but I mean, David DeCastro was a mauler, right? All-pro guard, great piece inside. The Steelers have prioritized good interior line play over the years. And, when you look at their football team right now, the way it's constructed, it's inside out along that offensive line. So, Javon Hargrave is going to be tested right out of bed against his former team. Last year, the 49ers didn't get any production out of defensive tackle, 3 sacks all season. So they're going to look for more out of Javon Hargrave this year because Javon is that big addition on the inside. But if you look at the Pittsburgh line, Mason Cole's the center, Isaac Seumalo, former Philadelphia Eagles, the left guard. James Daniels, the former Chicago Bear, is the right guard. So, I like their guards, and we'll see how they play together cohesively. But the tackles for the Pittsburgh Steelers have struggled in the past. Dan Moore at left tackle, and then Chuks Okorafor at right tackle. He was a former teammate of Jalen Moore as the 49ers swing tackle at Western Michigan. Both of these guys have given up a lot of pressure over the past couple of years. Both of these guys are holdover starters. There's a rookie, Broderick Jones, that entered the mix for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. Dan Moore, the starting left tackle, Dan Moore Jr., was able to hold off Broderick Jones. But Broderick Jones may see some playing time at some point this year because the tackles just aren't great. So with the 49ers, when you look at how to expose this Pittsburgh front, it starts with Bosa. It really does. And that's why, this holdout was really starting to concern the 49ers because they're looking at this game on paper. They see that they're playing a bully type team in Pittsburgh. And they're like, oh, crap. Well, Pittsburgh's one weakness is at offensive tackle. If we don't have Nick Bosa, that neutralizes the one weakness. I think that this game could have really quickly swung in Pittsburgh's favor. Instead, the Bosa is going to be out there, and will he be on some kind of pitch count? Maybe. Today, he said he's ready to play full bore. You knew he would say that, though. So we'll see what Kyle Shanahan thinks on Sunday. But I do know that TJ Watt, 2 days after signing a contract, after not participating in team drills over the course of the offseason in 2021, TJ Watt showed up and delivered 69 snaps, 2 sacks, and 5 quarterback hits. So it'd shock me if Bosa did not have a major role in this game, and that can help the 49ers establish something up front. So both fronts, they're going to dictate what happens in front of both second-year quarterbacks. As far as the 49ers' second-year quarterback, Brock Purdy, well, his job, he's got to avoid Minkah Fitzpatrick. These two teams, the 49ers and the Steelers, both racked up 20 interceptions last year. It's a lot. That was the most in the league. Both of these two teams were the league leaders in interceptions. 20 for the Niners, 20 for the Steelers. The Steelers' team leader was Minkah. 6 interceptions. They let him freelance. I mean, they let him play the scheme, obviously. That's what you want him to do. But a lot of players, you don't want them to freelance. You don't want them to leave the script. Minkah Fitzpatrick's an exception. He's an all-pro. And I don't love the Steelers' secondary outside of Minkah Fitzpatrick. 33-year-old Patrick Peterson running his mouth a little bit this week, right? Saying that he's going to get an interception of Brock Purdy. I mean, they've lost a cornerback in free agency. So you look at the 2 starting cornerbacks for this team outside of Patrick Peterson, assuming Patrick plays in the slot. We'll see exactly how they line things up. But Joey Porter Jr., one of the starters, and Levi Wallace is the other starter. There are going to be matchups for the 49ers to win here between Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, however you want to cut it, with Christian McCaffrey being the wild card. The X factor is opening everybody else up just with his gravitational pull. So there are going to be matchups for the 49ers to win. But the one, we talk about an X factor. The 49ers might have one in Christian McCaffrey coming out of the backfield. The Steelers defense has one in Minkah Fitzpatrick, freelancing, patrolling, racking up interceptions. Brock Purdy's got to keep him in mind, and he's got to, at the same time, you keep Fitzpatrick in mind so you're not throwing picks to him so he's not wreaking havoc on the game plan. But at the very same time, you have to be aware of the totality of the situation. You have to continue to execute Kyle Shanahan's scheme. You can't get too sucked into Minkah Fitzpatrick. Now, obviously, you can't forget him, but it's a tough job that Brock Purdy's going to have. And I think that Fitzpatrick is somebody that can really create a lot of trouble. So that's key 3. You have to really, really be aware of him. Key 4 is what I was just talking about. Nick Bosa exposed Pittsburgh's offensive weakness, the tackles. Because here's the thing with Pittsburgh. Take a look at this. They were second to last in explosive play rate last year. Wasn't good. They were dead last in yards after the catch. Now, they got some talent on this offense. Kenny Pickett is throwing to George Pickens, 6'3" receiver. Steve Wilkes mentioned him this week, unprompted. Nice weapon. He can go up and get the football. He can run routes. I mean, Pickens is good. He's throwing to Deontay Johnson, also quick, also somebody who can separate. Allen Robinson, or the shell of Allen Robinson, I'm not so sure. I mean, he's not as good as he used to be back in the Jaguars days and then the Rams days. Pat Freiermuth, the tight end, yes, good player. Najee Harris, the running back, solid player, but hasn't averaged over 4 yards per carry yet. By the way, shout out to Antioch. That's where Najee Harris is from. I covered one of Najee Harris's high school games when Jim Harbaugh was recruiting him. And I got to post this video. I have the video. Jim Harbaugh ended up announcing the Antioch High School, East Bay, homecoming queen. It was awesome. Jim Harbaugh was like, can I announce the homecoming queen? And he did. This was in the second half or halftime of the Antioch High School football game because he was recruiting him, trying to get him to come out to Michigan. So former 49ers coach recruiting Najee Harris, who's about to play against the 49ers. Obviously, Saban rolled through Antioch at some point before or after Harbaugh did, and Najee Harris ended up going to Alabama. But now Najee is with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's going to try to run against the 49ers. Anyway, the lack of explosiveness in that offense traces back to everybody. But I think that the Steelers blamed it mostly on quarterback play last year. And they've been very open about Kenny Pickett needing to improve, especially out of structure. Because, even in structure, it was the quick throws that they were completing for some gains last year, but he wasn't setting up yards after the catch. The accuracy wasn't quite there. The rhythm wasn't quite there. The Steelers need more of that because they need to improve this year. So the big question is, how much has Pickett and the Steelers offense improved? And Nick Bosa, with key 4 here, can throw a big wrench into any improvement plans if he can dominate the Pittsburgh offensive tackles. It's a lot harder to do stuff once you've been punched in the face, once your tackles are being backed up into the quarterback. Pittsburgh looked good in the preseason, but they didn't face a first-team defense for a full game. They certainly didn't face Nick Bosa. And that leads to key 5. Keep the explosiveness difference in your favor. 49ers were the 5th most explosive offense in football last year. I just showed you the Steelers were dead last. The 49ers were the top yak offense in football last year. I just showed you the Steelers were dead last. So keep that in your favor. I think the skill positions are where the 49ers are better here. It might be a wash along both lines. Both quarterbacks are second-year guys. Purdy was better than Pickett last year, but we'll see what Pickett does this year. Keep an eye out for Pickett running. Kenny Pickett can take off with his legs. He averaged about 20 rushing yards per game last season. And we know the 49ers have shown some vulnerability to that in the past. So those are the keys. That's the way the 49ers can win this football game, if they take care of those keys. Obviously, if it's close, you want Jake Moody to nail some kicks if it comes down to that. Could be a little windy in Pittsburgh Stadium. It could be rainy. They're saying some thunderstorms, 60 to 70% chance of rain. You never know how the weather is going to be back east. Last year, it was Lake Michigan in Chicago. That's more of a central city, right? But still, point taken. There was a big storm that rolled through Chicago. 49ers hoping for some drier weather. The favorite always wants drier weather. The favorite doesn't want funky weather conditions. That's what neutralizes the game. Last year, the Bears were not nearly as good as the 49ers. I think that the rain had a big part of why they won. I would say the monsoon did. Anyway, it's in the forecast in Pittsburgh. It doesn't seem as dire as it was in Chicago last year, where it was just going to be a deluge of rain, just drenching everybody. But we'll see what the conditions are. I'll report from Pittsburgh tomorrow. I'll let you know what the weather forecast is as soon as I get there. Anyway, those are the 5 keys. Win the Bully Ball Bowl. Hold serve versus TJ Watt with Colton McKivitz and help. Beware of Minkah Fitzpatrick. Nick Bosa's got to expose that Pittsburgh weakness, those tackles, and keep the explosiveness difference in your favor if you're the 49ers. That leads me back to the original question. Will the 49ers beat the Steelers? And that takes me to my answer. Yes, the 49ers will beat the Steelers. My predicted score is 49ers 20, Steelers 17. This does have some historical significance. In 1984, Week 7, the Steelers came to Candlestick Park. The 49ers would go on to win the Super Bowl that year. The 49ers went on to win the Super Bowl after finishing 15-1 in the regular season and obviously 3-0 in the postseason. So the 49ers finished 18-1. The reason that they finished 18-1 instead of 19-0, and they would have been the only team in NFL history to finish 19-0, is because of the Pittsburgh Steelers. In that Week 7 game at Candlestick Park, the Steelers beat the 49ers 20-17. Potential game-tying field goal for the 49ers at the end. I think it was Ray Wersching back then, right? Missed one at the final gun. That would have sent that to overtime. Joe Montana also threw a critical pick in the fourth quarter. So my score prediction for this one, 49ers 20, Steelers 17, is an inverse of that 1984 game. I love to throw historical stuff back around. Boomerangs right back in your face. 1984 was a long time ago. Almost 40 years. Coming up on 40 years. That's crazy, but I don't think my score prediction is. I think that this game is going to be low scoring. The over-under line in Vegas is only about 41 points. That implies that both teams are going to be hovering around 20. When you have two of the best defensive fronts in football, that's the kind of stuff that happens. And if it's raining, that's the kind of stuff that happens. And it very well might rain in Pittsburgh. I do put the over-under on amount of Permanente Brothers sandwiches that I'll eat this weekend at 1.5. You can bet whichever way you think that's going to work. Just know that I've already had one of those sandwiches here in San Francisco before leaving to Pittsburgh. And I've already showed you the sandwiches in other videos, but hell, it's worth it to show you again, isn't it? There you go. This is from Rudy's in San Francisco, the Pittsburgh bar, which was the Detroit Lions bar yesterday. But I got double meat and was it a double egg or double cheese? I don't know. It was double something else. The coleslaw, the fries, the egg, the cheese, all stuffed into that sandwich with copa. So that's a Pittsburgh style sandwich. We ate appropriately. What kind of food should I eat next week ahead of the trip down to LA? What's LA's signature dish? Pittsburgh's got their sandwiches. I'll go for LA's signature dish next week. You could leave your suggestions in the comment section. So, anyway, you just have a yes down at the bottom of the screen. Will the 49ers beat the Steelers? Yes, they will. And that will move me to 49ers Q&A. People tell me about LA's signature food, tacos. Okay. Love that. Randy says sushi down in LA. I don't think the burrito is LA signature food. I think that's San Francisco's. Korean barbecue in Koreatown in LA. Yeah, that's good. I mean, LA is a really diverse city, so we're going to get a lot of good answers here. But let's cross that bridge when we get to it. Why don't we go to 49ers Q&A right now and talk about this football game? Some good questions would be very, very welcome. And also, a nice little subscription would be really welcome here. Everybody's joining the party these days, by the way, so don't be the one that's left out. I'm going to put the link to this in the description. I put it in the description of other shows, though. This is my Symmetry article, 49ers and the Steelers. No cast or brace for Ray McCloud. He's going to be playing against his former team. I said Quan Alexander, former 49er, playing for the Steelers. Ray McCloud, former Steeler, playing for the 49ers. 4 weeks ago, Ray broke his wrist. They said it was going to be an 8-week thing. He's back after 4. He told Kyle Shanahan, don't count me out. And yeah, don't count Ray McCloud out because he's back after 4 weeks. Should be the 49ers returner. I am not Nostradamus. I don't know if Jake Moody's going to have a good game. The 49ers certainly hope he will. From a symbolic perspective as well as an effective football perspective, that would certainly be nice for the football team. Bosa might be on a bit of a pitch count, but it wouldn't surprise me if he's not. Today he said that he's ready for a full load. Predicted Purdy stat line. I think he'll be efficient, but I think it will be a bit of a grind to get to efficiency. Now, I'm not a fantasy guy. I don't do raw yardage. I don't think that tells us anything. I think that we should be looking at some of the smarter stats in this game. We should be looking at EPA. We should be looking at yards per attempt if you want something a little bit simpler. So I think it will be solid, but I don't think it's going to be gaudy in this game because Pittsburgh's got a really good defense. So he's just got to stay efficient. That's really important. Who will be the surprising impact player against the Steelers? That's a good question. It's a really good question. Juwan Jennings. This is a brawler kind of game. This is a bully ball kind of game. We haven't heard Juwan's name in a while just because Juwan's the guy that shows up on game day. Juwan's not the guy that you're going to be like, oh, okay, well, nice training camp practice. He had a couple nice catches, but he's the guy that pisses off the opposing team. Down and dirty in the trenches. He's blocking. And then obviously great after the catch, number 3 receiver. I think Juwan Jennings is going to have a surprising impact against the Steelers. Great on third down. People saying third and Juwan. Elijah says Dre Greenlaw. It's not a bad one either. Dre Greenlaw likes these bar fights as well. That's what I call. I call games, tractor pull's a really ugly game. Bar fight, tractor pull, synonymous. I think a tractor pull is a little bit uglier than a bar fight, but I do expect a game with two really powerful defensive fronts to be a true tug of war. Tavita says that Deebo Samuel will ball out. Mike does not want Dre Greenlaw to be committing personal fouls. I don't have full contract details for Bosa yet. Sorry. I'm flying to Pittsburgh tomorrow. It might be nice if they came out in the morning and I could work on a contract analysis flying on the plane to Pittsburgh, but still don't know. Charlie looking forward to seeing Deebo and Christian McCaffrey on the same field together. All right, good stuff. We went through our 49ers keys. Will the 49ers beat the Steelers? Bully ball, win the Bully Ball Bowl, hold serve against TJ Watt with Colton McKivitz. Beware Minka Fitzpatrick. Remember, Kyle Juszczyk blasted Minka into oblivion last time the 49ers saw the Steelers, 2019. That was the Dante Pettis game. Touchdown there with the minute 14 left from Jimmy Garoppolo. 49ers won despite turning the ball over 5 times. Anyway, that's key 3. Key 4, Nick Bosa exposed Pittsburgh's offensive weakness, the tackles, and keep the explosiveness difference in your favor if you're the 49ers. Will the 49ers beat the Steelers? My answer is yes. Everybody have a great night.